friends, Erin here. Welcome back to my channel where I share all things homesteading, gardening, essential oils, and even canning and different things like that. I just love sharing all the different things that we do here on the farm and things that I enjoy. So I just thank you for subscribing to my channel. And if you like what you're seeing, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, as you never know what I'll share in my next video, even like fun gluten-free cooking recipes. So this year I attempted my first time of using raised garden beds, and a friend actually told me about these Best Choice garden beds, and I can't tell you enough about how impressed I have been with them and how much easier this has been gardening. As you can see behind me, those are my cherry tomatoes, and they are taller than I am, and I'm 5'4", so it's crazy how well these garden beds ended up working. And being a retired dairy farmer, I have milked for 20 years or so, and so my back, after having 4 children and milking cows all the time, it definitely doesn't need any more bending than it already has, as does my hips and knees. And so on that note, I wanted something that was up off the ground. Plus, we ended up letting our tame rabbits go several years ago, and now they've multiplied as rabbits do, and they are all over our yard. So I can't have anything on the ground or the rabbits eat it all. And so I'm going to give you a quick tour of what I've done so far on my first year of gardening. And I've already decided I need to expand because this is not enough for what I would like to grow and try to put up for our family. So, ready for your tour? So then in this garden bed, I planted my cherry tomatoes, Roma tomatoes, bell peppers, jalapenos, and banana peppers. And then in this little front one, I actually have lavender and lamb's ear, which I'm going to be transplanting. I'll show you in a minute. But I definitely overplanted this garden bed, and that's another reason for why I want to expand my garden, is because I would love to grow more tomatoes and peppers, but clearly I put way too many in this one. So I've been doing a lot of major pruning on it, and I'll show you my pruning pile here in just a minute. But just to make sure that everybody gets enough sunlight. And then here on the corners, I actually also planted some cucumbers. And so that's been kind of nice because they can just spill over the side. But like here's one of my banana peppers and jalapeno peppers. So I planted them on the edge, and then I planted the tomatoes in the center. And as you can see, like, I've been attempting to prune them, and you can just see so many tomatoes on here. I just feel bad for the Romas because the cherry tomatoes really took over, and I just cannot get over how big my pepper plants got. Like, they're humongous. And so I've been getting, of course, lots of produce in this garden bed. And then in these little pots, I actually had my onions. And I recently just put my lettuce up here because the rabbits keep eating it. So, but then, yeah, here on this side too, my peppers are kind of spilling over the side. And then, of course, I've got the cherry tomatoes on this side, you know, kind of caging them up. But there's just so many tomatoes to ripen yet. So I'm really hoping that they can all ripen before the frost. So today I actually just cut off all of the tops so that nothing is growing any taller out of this garden bed. And then here you can actually see like my cucumbers spilling along the bottom, and I see a cucumber I missed down there. But here's like my harvest of tomatoes this morning that I'm going to take in and then throw them in the freezer until I've got enough produce to actually make some sauce. And then here's my discard pile of the tomatoes so far. And I've done this 2, 3, maybe 4 times to this garden bed, and, you know, just done major pruning on the leaves and any sucker growth just to try to keep it manageable. But I am excited next year to just do Roma tomatoes, and I'll do my bell peppers and jalapenos for salsa. So let's show you the rest. So then in this garden bed, I transplanted my asparagus from my son's house. And so this one also is an 8 by 4 by 2 foot bed. And so I did my asparagus in the center on this side. But then because my asparagus is still so young, I bought and planted zucchinis on this end. And so this zucchini is spilling over the side nicely, kind of which is what I was hoping. However, my other zucchini on the other side ended up going right in the center of my asparagus patch, and it's still producing zucchinis, which is nice. And then on the other half of the bed, because I forgot how big plants get, I planted peas on each side, and where a pea didn't grow, I put in like a tomato plant that I had extra, Or on that side, I ended up doing 2 more cucumber plants. Definitely 4 cucumber plants for a family of 5 is too many cucumber plants. I need to downsize to 2 plants because it still gave us a ton of cucumbers, which is good and bad at the same time. And then this year, for the first time, I'm growing a couple new plants that I've never grown before. And one is parsnips. And I had the seeds, so I thought I would grow them, and that's these really big leaves. They have really interesting tall stems like a celery. And so I love making a parsnip carrot puree. It is so good. I'll have to make sure to do a little recording on that one on how you do that because it's really yummy. And then I also, because I had room here before my zucchini took over this half, I had planted my extra Walla Walla onions, and then buried under here somewhere is sweet potato plants. So if you saw my video from earlier this year, my sweet potatoes grew. So I can't wait to see if the sweet potatoes actually have sweet potatoes underneath them. And so again, I kind of overplanted this bed. I also have some carrots in here, so I'm happy to see a few of them are gonna make it. But in this bed, because I was looking at companion planting and I wanted to know what would grow well with my asparagus, I'm actually going to do asparagus, parsley, basil. I'm going to transplant my ground cherries. So right here, I dug up and transplanted my ground cherries. And if you've never had these, they're really yummy, like little sweet candy-like cherries. So that's kind of what they look like until they dry out. And they're more of a fall, I've noticed. Like this time of year, they really start producing. So I'm going to plant the ground cherries in here, and then I might on the end do the zucchini. So, and hopefully this time I can get it to spill over the side so that it's not growing in my plants. But I think that's going to work out really well for this garden bed. And then I'll show you what I did next. Then I decided to expand. I know you're probably all laughing at me because you would probably do the same thing. So I stuck with the Best Choice brand garden beds. I just really like how well they go together. But I wanted to transplant all of my mints. So along the fence here, if you can see up there, I have a bunch of different mints, and I've been harvesting them all summer and drying them for tea because I love hot tea. So I'm going to plant all my peppermints in here. So I have chocolate mint, pineapple mint, spearmint, regular peppermint, and mojito mint. And so they're all going to go in this 8 by 2 foot by 2 foot garden bed. I haven't finished putting it together yet because I want to fill it half full with hay because we have a bad hay bale that needs to get out of my lawn. So I'm going to fill it half full, and then I'll start filling it with dirt and hopefully transplant all that stuff before winter sets in. And then I need to finish getting my blocks yet to frame out my beds. And then in this bed, I'm going to dedicate it, because this is another 8 by 4 footer, to Roma tomatoes. So I'm going to do 2 rows of Roma tomatoes, and then I'm going to plant sunflowers down the center. It'll help, support the tomatoes a little bit, and then also give us some really pretty fall flowers when those sunflowers are starting to flower. So I'm kind of excited about that. And again, I'm not done with this garden bed. I still have to cut the plastic out of the center, and I need to put my bracers in, but I'm going to get my hay and blocks around it first. And then with this garden bed, looking again at companion planting and what would work best based on what I learned this year, I'm actually going to do peppers, onions. So 2 rows of peppers. I'll do all my onions down the center. Maybe I might branch into garlic, see if I can find myself some garlic plants. And then I'm going to plant dill in here as well and just kind of alternate it. My dill did grow really well in my vertical beds, and I'll show you those next. Except for the caterpillars kind of had their way with them, but that was okay because they're really pretty butterflies. And then I bought a little small bed because the way my brain works is I'm thinking of my kids mowing the grass, and they're going to come around these garden beds, and then they're going to have to come up right next to the house. I thought, well, why don't I put a little garden bed, and then that way it's not such a sharp turn in for them to mow the grass. Maybe it was just an excuse to get another garden bed, but anyway, so in this one, I'm going to transplant my Melissa or lemon balm because I really enjoyed drying that this year, and it tastes so much like Fruit Loops, and I just like the smell of Melissa. So I'm going to transplant my Melissa in here. Also my thyme, oregano, and rosemary. And because we're zone 4, I don't know what's actually going to make the winter, but I'm really hoping it does. So we'll see how well all of that stuff does. Otherwise, I'll just transplant it and replant again next year. But I'm hoping, because it's on the north side of the house here, that if I put some nice mulch on top of it, once our first frost and snowfalls hit, that this will actually do really well and be protected from the winter. So now for my garden beds, or my vertical beds. So I purchased 3 of these. I originally started with, so this one is a deeper pocket made for root vegetables. So I did every other beet, carrot, beet, carrot. I ended up transplanting a few beets on the top of this one. And so they're actually doing really well in there. But as you can see, the bunny rabbits, now that my fence is not up on this side, they have found my carrots and are eating my branches off. But thankfully, it's going to be really hard for them to get in there to eat my carrots out. So the carrots even are looking really well. I can see a whole bunch of them in there. And so this will be fun to like do a video of the harvest of these vertical beds, because I've never done them before. And then, like I said, I transplanted a lot of things and just found every pail I could find. So this is actually some sweet potatoes. Here's some more ground cherries with a flowery weed. Some extra peppers that I planted, another tomato plant, and then my chamomile. So I might have to get another bed because I want to research to see if chamomile is a perennial up here. And if it is, I'm going to need another garden bed to put my chamomile and my lavender in, because those were the only 2 that I did not find a bed for. And so I definitely want to keep those. And then over here is my herb one. And so this next year, the root one is going to be my carrots, and I think this one's going to be my beets. And so I actually did my Melissa lemon balm on the bottom. I have chives on the 3rd row. This row has basil, this row has parsley, this row has thyme, and then the top doesn't have anything except for like a marigold over there. But anyway, this worked great for my herbs. And so if I decide not to do my beets in this one, I would definitely do like my parsley, basil, but I think I'm going to plant those, like I said, with my asparagus and ground cherries, because I think they'll do really well there. And then one last garden. So this one, this spring, I had actually had my strawberries in it, but unfortunately it was too hot in this corner for the strawberries, and their seeds or their roots were too exposed to the heat, and so they just didn't do well. So I gave the plants to my son, and next year I'm going to actually plant radishes in this one, because the radishes did really well in the vertical bed, and if I leave it in this corner, it's going to stay nice and cool, and maybe even do some lettuces in here. So like the romaine lettuce, and as long as I keep them watered and keep them cool, I think they're going to do really well. And then with this little fun stainless steel old wash water pot, next year I think I'm going to do lettuces in it as well, because again, it's in this cool corner, and I just think they'll do really well. So that's my garden and what I learned the first year in having raised garden beds, and how I think I'm going to do things differently next year. So I hope you'll stay tuned and subscribe to my channel to continue learning more about raised garden bed growing, or just giving me some advice along the way. So feel free to comment below with like things you learned about gardening, and what, if you do companion planting, what you like to plant together, or even what are your favorite things to plant in your vegetable garden. And I look forward to reading those comments. So thanks again, and have a great day.